Hello and welcome to this third working day of the project Big Data for Rivers. This third day will be focused on a second seminar on the importance of operational programs for the improvement of water quality and for the efficiency of infrastructures. I would like to welcome all the participants, and for logistic purpose, I would like to inform you that simultaneous interpretation is available. Follow the link that was provided to you. Introduce the code. Disconnect the WebEx session so that you can listen only to the interpretation. This presentation will be made available afterwards. If you have any questions, you can use the chat feature on the platform. For this session, I would like to give the floor to the moderator of the second panel, Paulo Queiroz from JPT Consultants. He will kick off this morning session. The floor is yours, Paulo. A very good morning to all of you. I'm Paulo Queiroz. I was invited to be the moderator of this interesting panel within the scope of the project Big Data for Rivers. The topic of this panel is the role of the operational programs in improving water quality. In other words, how the community financed programs have been promoting the improvement of water quality across Europe, and within the next programming period, we need to see how we can fine-tune, enhance these operational programs so that we can have a better use, a more efficient use of the resources being allocated to improve water quality. By water quality, we mean, I guess, the entire water cycle. But the experts on this matter are the guest speakers for this panel. The guest speakers are scattered across Europe. They will provide us a very diverse perspective on the role of the OPs in improving water quality. We have colleagues from Southern Europe, Northern Europe, Eastern Europe, and Western Europe. This will allow us to have a very complete picture of the current situation across Europe. I'm sure that the participants are not here to listen to the moderators, so without further ado, I would like to give the floor to the speakers of this panel. The first speaker is from Greece. His name is Spiliotis Agelos, from the Managing Authority of the region of Attica. I'll give you the floor immediately so that we can listen to your presentation. A very good morning, and the floor is yours.
See you. Good morning to all of you, and I'm wishing you a much better new year for everybody, which I hope will be a very easy target for everyone. And In the next few minutes, I will present you some key points for the role of Attica Operational Program, the, the Regional Operation Program as a policy instrument for big data for rivers project, and the importance of the Regional Operation Program for the improvement of water quality and the efficiency of the infrastructure for water. Let me share my presentation. Okay. Okay. So, the region of Attica is the owner of the policy instrument Regional Operation Program of Attica, and it has the overall control over the program specification and the allocation of financial resources, taking into consideration the provisions of European and national legislation. The managing authority now is responsible for the design, management, and monitoring of the Regional Operation Program. The Regional Operation Program consists of priority axes associated with actions that the region of Attica decides to implement. More specifically, the priority axis of the Regional Operation Program irrelevance with the proposed actions from the big data for rivers project is the priority axis 6, with the title Improving the Quality of Life in the Urban Environment. The priority axis 6 lies under the thematic of objectives 6, which is the preservation and protection of the environment and promotion of resource efficiency. This thematic objective, of course, is for the programming period 2014-2020. Now, if we are going in more details, action proposed by the big data for river project could be financed under the investment priority 6B, which is contributed to the specific objective 6B1 that deals with the expansion of water supply networks in settlements that do not have access to high quality drinking water. Of course, we are close to the end of the programming period of 2014-2020, which is the project should be completed by 31 of December of 2023. But the Regional Operation Program of Attica will continue in the new programming period, 21-27, and actually with much bigger budget, reaching 2.1 billion euros, while before it was 1.1 billion euros. Now, the contribution to the program of the actions financed under the investment priority 6B and the specific objective 6B1 are measured by two indicators. The first indicator, which is an output indicator, is the additional population served by improved water supply services. This indicator counts people with access to drinking water through the water supply network due to increase in good quality drinking water production or due to the increase of the capacity of the network. The indicators the The second indicator, which is a result indicator, is counts the population percentage that has access in a good quality water supply. It concerns the total permanent population of the Attica region as a percentage that has access to good quality water supply based on specific quality characteristics mentioned in the current legislation. Now, the main objective of the Regional Operation Program, Investment Priority 6B, is to fund and to implement projects following the European Environmental Acquisition and the national strategies in the sector of water. The actions are aiming at compliance with the requirements of Directive 98/83 on water for human consumption and the sustainable management of the water resources of the region, such as the completion of water infrastructure, mainly on islands and remote settlements by the sea of the region of Attica. In the water sector, there is a great need to implement targeted infrastructure water supply mainly to the islands of the region in order to meet the requirements of the directive above. The priority of the regional operation program is very high and critical. There are urgent targeted actions to be implemented through new projects supported from the management plan for the river basin and following national and European legislation on the protection and management of water resources. Now, the improvement of the policy instrument of the regional operation Attica will be achieved mostly through new project supported improvement of governance. Under priority axis 6, the region of Attica is implementing projects such as facilities or infrastructure for the supply of islands and small agglomerations by the sea to meet the requirements of the directive as we mentioned. Now, the outcomes of the big data for river project will help the regional operation program or the region of Attica to improve its governance results with special focus in the impact of the efficiency of the water treatment systems in the rivers quality of water, the implementation of new targeted actions of the management plan for the river basin and national EU legislation on the protection and management of water resources, and the increase of technical know-how concerning best practices and successful case study on water treatment. The basic principle that will cover the formulation of the methodology for the selection of actions are the evaluation of their feasibility, their efficiency, and their effectiveness in order to ensure their contribution to the achievement of specific objectives of the program. The region of Attica already implements actions with a special focus in the impact of the efficiency of water treatment systems, such as implementation of potable water treatment systems and new water supply networks, water treatment systems and implementation of potable water treatment systems and new water supply networks for the needs of Attica specific special local and climate conditions on islands or coastal areas. big data for rivers should provide inspiration regarding new funding schemes and effective projects that will assist the improvement of the policy instrument of the regional operation program. Well, this was my thank you for your attention, and I'm looking forward for the outcomes of your projects.
Muito bem. Muito.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your crystal clear presentation regarding the role of the operational programs in improving the water quality, particularly in the region of Attica in Greece. You provide us a very comprehensive and interesting perspective. I will give the floor now to Jolanta Dvarioniene from Lithuanian. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. You are here representing the Kaunas University of Technology. I'm sure that you will provide us a more technical perspective from a university perspective. Now we will listen to someone coming from Northern Europe with different features and with different solutions, most likely. I would like once again to thank Spiliotis Angelos, and I'll give the floor to Jolanta Dvarioniene from the Kaunas University of Technology.
Nome,
Everybody. Nice to meet you all again. And okay, I will try to share my presentation. So okay. So can you see? Yes, and can you hear me? So hello everybody once again. Actually, I should start with a small note, because today for Lithuania is a very special day. On 13th of January, 30 years ago, our people of Lithuania, or inhabitants, they took back our independence from Soviet times. So really, this is a very special day. So we are celebrating, but this is not a free day. But our parliament is discussing to have a free day. But today is a very special day, and we started with some online events yesterday. Very nice to remember those times. And of course, we had a lot of victims and injuries, but still we are very proud that we have this, the most important thing for the people, freedom. So I would like to share with you some thoughts about the role of operational program in improving water quality, and actually many such projects, inter-Europe projects, especially where operational programs were mentioned, previous operational programs from 2014 and 2020. It's like a challenge, because now it's we are turning, or we are experiencing at the time that actually money are spent already, and funds dedicated for operational program for 2014 and 2020 already invested. And we wait for the new program, and this new programming document will come this year, and hopefully will be approved on June of 2021. So I tried to manage my slides. I do not know why it doesn't work. I did this yesterday, or not yesterday, but day before, but I do not know why it doesn't work. It sometimes happens. So sorry for that. Okay, it's moving. So we will learn a lot of, due to COVID, those online tools, we learn it is also added value for our daily activities. So let me remind that we Lithuania, we call in the Baltic region, we have a lot of water. And for those people who didn't attend the previous event of Big Data for Rivers, you can see that our country has a lot of, or I would say that huge resources of waters, and especially groundwaters as well, not only surface waters. And maybe one of the country we use for our drinking, as a drinking resource, drinking water, we use underground water. And those surface waters, of course, are very important. And there are a lot of resources of water. So, and let me remind that our Lithuanians area equals to 65,000 of square kilometers. It's quite little country with a population approximately of 3 million. And as I have mentioned, in the statistics we have indicated even more rivers, but there are in the slide indicated those 758. It means that the criteria was that longer than 10 kilometers, so, and more than 2,800 lakes. And we have not much, only 99 kilometers of Baltic Sea coastline. And also I should mention that 30% of the country is covered by forests, and we have those river basin districts. All these districts are international, and we are sharing with in south with the Poland, in north with the Latvia, and of course in the east with the Belarus and Russia from Kaliningrad, from the sea. Baltic Sea side. What was mentioned in the application form and as a policy instrument, of course, operational program, and this program is not regional program, but national program. And the priority axis, as usual, you can meet in other countries' operational programs. The priority axis related with environment, sustainable use of natural resources, and adaptation to climate change. And of course, the specific objective was improve the status of the Baltic Sea and other surface or national surface waters. And investment priority in water sector to meet the requirements of Union's environmental acquis and to address the needs identified by the member states for investment going beyond those requirements. And actually, I'm not going to talk about these requirements because all of us know and we have analyzed in our joint research report. And the most important are among the documents are Water Framework Directive, of course, and many other directives. And each country has to adopt those directives, and of course the requirements indicated in the Water Framework Directives have to be achieved in a certain time, indicated time, regarding the different criteria. Why the situation should be improved and what needs to be improved in Lithuania according to the operational previous or current operational program. Of course, the water quality, and we talked on the first day of the exchange of experience, or when we were talking about the water framework directives and related issues, that of course the quality of water, and sometimes it is really very interesting because you know that we also officially declare that our colonial Baltic Sea shore and about 2/3 of Lithuanian rivers and about 1/3 of lakes do not meet the requirements of good status of water. But this is not a very impressive news because we know that all countries have this challenge and all of us try to make some efforts and try to develop the plans, river basin management plans, and foresee measures how to achieve and how to increase the percentage of good quality of our waters. And as a main factor was indicated, or the main factor of human economic activities was indicated as an impact on the status of surface water bodies and diffuse pollution and point source pollution. The same as in other countries, we actually have to talk about the pollution coming from the agriculture, and as you maybe know, our Baltic Sea, one of the most polluted seas in the world, and still we have a huge challenge with the biogenic, with the nitrogen and phosphorus, and of course, maybe we are more related, or maybe we more are talking about the nitrogen and phosphorus, but I would say that emerging substances or emerging pollutants, micropollutants are also a big issue, but actually in Lithuania we still have not much measures or activities done concerning the micropollutants and substances of very high concern. And among those, I know that our national authority, they are solving the problem regarding phthalates or some other substances, and still we under development of measures regarding the pharmaceuticals as one of the most important issues. And what else it is important, not only in our region or in our country, but I think in all Baltic region and maybe in other countries as well, that small settlements, small cities and agglomerations, they have a problem because, for example, in Lithuania, we have more than 1,200 settlements with population of between 200 and 2,000 PE, and inhabitants of these settlements account for 20% of Lithuanian population, and their drinking water supply and wastewater treatment system do not meet requirements, or sometimes they don't have at all those wastewater treatment, especially wastewater treatment plants and services. So it means that we actually should refer to this new programming document and ask our maybe municipalities work together and try to solve this problem, because not only national authorities and regional authorities have to solve, but also municipalities, in my opinion, should take also this responsibility to solve together with the national efforts. And actually, I know that we were discussing with scientists from other institutions that, especially in the touristic areas where the seasonal pollution is very important also, because when we have summertime, maybe in some south countries, the seasons are over all year, but in Lithuania, we have starting season from April until October. And these months, the pollution sometimes 5 or sometimes 10 times bigger than usually. Also, I would say that maybe this is not a new information, that the status of 45% of Lithuanian surface water bodies is satisfactory or poor, and where the need, we have to improve, it means that we should ensure the compliance of services provided to consumer with the health, environmental and quality requirements, as well as public supply of drinking water and provision of the wastewater treatment services in optimal conditions and optimal prices. So this is what is included in our operational current operational program. I also try to understand what is the situation, and I was a little bit disappointed and surprised that already Lithuania invested a lot. But you see from the graph that from the implementation during 2014 and 2020 programs, we still not invested all the planned funds, and these funds were, of course, in the program as such, were mostly dedicated for renovation of schools, for industrial firms or other industrial companies, but also, as you see, the third one and biggest area was improved water supply in the country. And for the next period, for the planning period, our government and other institutions, other authorities, national authorities, ministries, they are still developing the national progress plan dedicated for 2021-2030. And in this plan, also there is strategic objective related with the good quality of environment and sustainability of natural resources to protect biological diversity, to mitigate Lithuania's impact on climate change, and to increase resilience to its impact. And of course, this in the National Progress Plan, in this strategic objective, there are mentioned especially Lithuania's inland waters, and external waters and groundwaters as well. And also they made a conclusion that these waters remains unsatisfactory. 51% of water bodies in the category of rivers and 40% of water bodies in the category of lakes do not meet the criteria of good status. So what was mentioned before, it is really was taken into account. And as the analysis of the situation shows, that still we have this diffuse pollution and concentrated pollution, and of course we have the problems with the groundwaters and groundwater pollution, and among those criteria or problems mentioned pollution of urban and settlement wastewater treatment plants, and pollution especially with the hazardous substances or micropollutants. Yes, and finally, what we have in the operational program and draft operational program for 2021 and 2027, EU funds investment program for Lithuania, we have a priority greener Lithuania, and this priority also has indicated the specific task on promoting water availability and sustainable management of water resources. And still we have very general description, but of course those topics or tasks are related with the modernization and development of drinking water supply and the wastewater treatment infrastructure, then modernization and development of surface or rainwater and wastewater treatment infrastructure. And this, I should mention that still was under development in the previous program, was indicated as a also main area, as surface rainwaters were included in IPPC permits, but we still have a lot of problems, and we have to take into account these problems related with this rainwaters. And of course, strengthen the water management and improve the conditions of water bodies. And there are different mentioned, as I said, topics and strategic or specific tasks. And we think that first, by allowing the implementation of projects combining different investment priorities, the Lithuanian can significantly improve the situation in this way. And of course, second way is introducing the innovations for new measures or revising the scope of supported activities of currently planned measures, including ICT as a key tool to achieve efficiency in water systems and protection. And how do we envisage the improvement of this policy instrument? Of course, the focal points for the improvement of the policy are through the structural change, improved governance, and new projects supported. And actually, what we learned from the big data for rivers that, and we have discussed with the national authority that the main problems and main issues indicated in their in our regional stakeholder events when we were discussing the improvements, possible improvements in country. They were mentioned, and we would like to learn from other countries about how to involve other stakeholders. It means that now in Lithuania, mostly for all the environmental issues related with status of surface waters are responsible the national authorities, and their question was about how to involve and how to dedicate some questions to the municipalities, to regional authorities or municipalities to solve the local problems concerning the pollution and of course, when we mention the other stakeholders, it means not only municipalities as such, but also local farmers, companies, industrial companies, and of course, business companies working in the field of water resources management. So, thank you for your attention. That's it, what I wanted to mention about the water quality improvement and operational program in our country. Thank you very much. And I'm happy to answer your questions if you will have.
Well, thank you very much for your presentation, and congratulations for the Independence Day of Lithuania. I hope it becomes an holiday in the future because it is deserved. In what concerns the questions, we will leave it for the end of the presentations. So I will give the floor to Liliana Souza, which is representing a Junta de Castela e Leão em Espanha.
Muito bom dia a todos.
Olá, bom dia.
Good morning. Let me share with you my presentation. Can you see it? Okay, so good morning. I'm Liliana Souza. I'm from the Geotributo company, and I am doing this presentation representing the Iberian Association of Riverside Municipalities of the Douro River. Of course, it was the board of Castile and Leon that was supposed to do this presentation, but due to agenda constraints, this was not possible. So they shared with us some information, and we will make this brief presentation. This Board of Castile and Leon is the authority within the scope of the project, namely the National Operational Program of Castilla and Leon. The regional OP of Castilla and Leon for the 2014-2020 time frame is a political instrument so as to introduce improvements, and this instrument has five main objectives, namely to promote innovation contributing for the change in the Castilla-Leon model, the development model of information and telecommunication technologies, and the new economy of knowledge for a sustainable economic recovery, to promote the sustainability of companies, namely those with a high innovative component, and also the establishing of new businesses, increase the renewable energies, to reduce the consumption of energy, and to contribute towards environment protection by improving water management, use of the natural resources in the region. In line with these goals, the investment strategy of DOP has 4 priority axes together with a technical assistance axis. The 5 main axes are: Axis 1, to promote research and technological development; Axis 2, to improve the use of ICTs and the access to these technologies by the population at large; Axis 3, to improve SMEs' competitiveness; Axis 4, to support the transition to a low-carbon economy in all sectors; and Axis 6, to preserve and protect the environment and promote the use of resources. And it is in this axis that we have the Big Data for Rivers project. The OP has over 70% of the available budget in research and development, SMEs, and low-carbon economy. The protection of the environment is also acknowledged as a priority for this region, given the need to speed up and ensure the enforcement of the Framework Water Directive in Castilla and Leon. This priority lies within Axis 6 that was previously presented, on priority of investment 6E, and also a specific investment priority to fulfill the Water Framework Directive requirements with the reuse of wastewater and the improvement of water quality. And it is in this specific objective that we have the Big Data for Rivers project. Regarding the expected outcomes, the OP includes some goals regarding the expected outcomes at the end of the cycle, and also let me highlight a goal for the treatment of wastewater and to increase the coverage of the population with residual water treatment. And a specific goal is defined regarding the number of inhabitants covered by this measure. Now, regarding the approach related with the role of DOP in improving water quality, it is important to give you background data regarding this region. This region has a surface of 94,000 square meters. It covers 2,228 municipalities with over 6 population settlements, some with less than 200,000 inhabitants and 128 with over 2,000 inhabitants. The total population is 5 million inhabitants. So, given this data, we have the population scattered in the region, and this is a management challenge, namely for the provision of infrastructures and wastewater structures. Thus, the goal of the program is to cover more population with this type of services. In what concerns the investments made within the scope of the OP, it is important to state the following. In Castilla and Leon, the competence and responsibility for sanitation and wastewater treatment services is under the responsibility of municipalities. The Board of Castilla and Leon carries out via the Ministry of the Development and Environment the functions of advising local companies in making investments of regional interest. Thus, resulting from this support, a remarkable investment effort has been made by different public administrations in the field of sanitation and wastewater treatment in recent years. The implementation and use of structural and cohesion funds has been a decisive and essential support for the construction of several urban wastewater treatment infrastructures, mainly in towns with over 200,000 inhabitants. Regarding the OP and the thematic objective 6 has made possible to give sanitation and wastewater treatment in settlements that did not comply with Directive 271/91/EC, the Urban Wastewater Treatment Directive, and this back to 2013, before the OP started. Prior to the approval of the OP, the wastewater treatment actions to be co-financed by the ERDF was set, and then had to meet any of the following criteria. These three you can read on the slide, corresponding or forming part of a settlement of more than 10,000 equivalent inhabitants, discharging into sensitive areas as defined in the directive, being a settlement included in an infringement procedure of this same directive. The amount of the OP granted to Castilla and Leon is 32.5 million euros. There's a financing percentage of 50%, therefore enabling actions for a total amount of 65 million euros. A manual of procedures for management, control, support, evaluation, and dissemination of the OP was prepared in order to guarantee a transparent and efficient management of community funds. Resulting also from this manual of procedures, the actions carried out will be evaluated based upon the following indicators: the results indicator and the productivity indicator. Regarding the results indicator, the first one corresponds to the compliance at the regional level with Article 4 regarding secondary treatment. Another result indicator is the percentage of compliance at the regional level with Article 5 of this same directive regarding a more rigorous treatment of discharges in sensitive areas. Regarding the productivity indicator, is a population that benefits from a better treatment of wastewater in the region. The objective is to achieve the wastewater treatment for 40,000 inhabitants that discharge to areas classified as normal and 133,000 to sensitive areas according to the Directive 271/91 of the European Council. So agreements are made defining the collaboration between regional administration and local entities, assuming the first commitment to finance 30% of the investment and the second remaining 20% financing those that are not covered by community funds. Now, as a conclusion, we have here a table that illustrates some sanitation and wastewater investments under the umbrella of this program, and these are actions that have already been concluded, namely linking settlements to wastewater treatment plants, namely 3 settlements linked to the Valladolid wastewater treatment plant, another one that was connected to Palencia. We also have a network of collectors and treatment system for these populations, namely a system with prolonged aeration, and 7 communities also belong to the network of collectors and treatment system, and 9 benefited from the extension of treatment and improvement of existing facilities in the wastewater treatment plant. This board of Castilla and Leon also made available more detailed information, namely technical information regarding what was done in these wastewater treatment plants, if the attendants of this event are interested, and you can ask for this detailed information. And let me now finish my presentation. Thank you. Thank you for the presentation of the Board of Castilla and Leon. The information I have is that Mr. Carlos Martins, representing Waters of Alto Minho, unfortunately is being faced with some technical problems, so he has not joined us yet, and therefore I would like to invite our colleagues from Sweden, from the County Board of Östergötland, from the Unit of Waters, Sara Lonerud and Sofia Bastvik. And again, the chair apologizes for his pronunciation of the speakers' names. But if possible, I would like to invite you to start your presentation. And Mr. Carlos Martins will make his presentation in the end of the panel before the Q&A. So I would like to know if Sara and Sofia from Sweden are ready and can make their presentation now.
Bom dia, Sofia Bastpiken.
The floor is yours if you want
To start, please go ahead.
Oops.
We are listening now.
Yes, I don't know if you hear me.
Yes, very well.
Yeah, okay. I'm trying to unmute myself, but I couldn't reach it. Okay, great. Thank you. I couldn't really understand the last things you said because I tried to switch off this translation part. Can you also see my presentation?
Yes, we can see it quite well.
Great. Okay, then I start. I'm Sofia Bastviken, and I'm from the County Administrative Board in Östergötland. And I also have my colleague Sara Lönerud is joining in, and you can add things if I forget something. But Östergötland in Sweden, it's as I told you last time we had the presentations, it's in the southern part of Sweden, and it's close to the Baltic Sea. It's bordering to the Baltic Sea, and we have a large archipelago and also a lot of islands in the Baltic Sea. We also actually have the largest river entering the Baltic Sea in the southern parts. So this is our main interest area for this project. But for this session, we are not the owner of our regional operational program. But I was asked anyway to talk about how we are using this project in a different policy instrument that we're using. And we will, of course, try to also influence our regional operational program, but it's another authority that deals with it and owns that's really administrative for it. Yes. So our policy instrument in this project is the environmental objectives of Sweden. And as a basis for these national objectives, it's actually the global objectives. But then we have made national objectives. We had them before the global objectives. But now they are incorporated. And after the national objectives, there are 16 that Sarah talked about also yesterday. We have also then regional objectives that are connected to the national objectives. And we also have then local objectives that are connected to the regional objectives. So it's like, yeah, you can understand they are related. Let's see. So what we are in charge of is the regional environmental objectives of Östergötland, and that's what we're using in this project as a policy instrument. And these are the 5 objectives that's directed to the water quality and that we are especially focusing on in this project. We will more or less focus on these 3 environmental objectives. It's about eutrophication. The goal is 0 eutrophication. It's a little tough, but there's all these are coupled also to the Water Framework Directive. So 0 eutrophication, that's one of the objectives. The other one is flourishing lakes and streams. And then we have a balanced marine environment. And as I said, all of these are referring and are connected also to the river basin management and the program of measures for the Water Framework Directive. So, and they are not reached yet, and we need actions for these objectives. I described this a little bit during Monday, but we have only 10% of the lakes and rivers in our region that actually achieves good ecological status. And the main reasons are eutrophication, toxic substances, and physical impact activities, like power plants. And so this is why we need a lot of action, that we need to make this more. We need to enhance this and try to speed it up. And we have this program of measures, but we believe and we find that these are not specific enough for local actions. Together with the municipalities and local landowners, we need more specifics, and we need to come in a different scale. So that's what we want to work with. And for the regional environment objectives, we have some key performance indicators, and they are mostly reflected by the percentage of water bodies that are reaching good status or good potential. So what we want to do, as I told you before, but I can repeat, this is to take some steps towards the goal. It's to develop these local, more sustainable local action plans together with the municipalities. And we believe that this will improve our management and actions that can be taken. And we want to include this in this policy instrument. To do this, we of course need to involve more stakeholders and improve the communication between them. And we also need to have more efficient environmental monitoring. And I think in this project, we have learned a lot from each other. And I think it's interesting to look at what everybody is dealing with. And we expect improvements in the governance regarding local regional water management, and also improved then accomplishment of the environmental objectives that we have and the Water Framework Directive. So that was actually what I was planning to say. So thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Eu penso que o engenheiro Carlos Martins já está pronto.
I think that Mr. Martins is already ready to make his presentation. And so I would like to welcome him to this seminar, and I'll give you the floor immediately. Mr. Martins is representing the Águas do Alto Minho, the company responsible for the water supply in Net 3 in the region of Alto Minho in Portugal. Mr. Martins, the floor is yours. A very good morning to all of you. I didn't prepare any PowerPoint presentation. I would like to thank the opportunity that is given to me to share with you some viewpoints regarding the progresses made by Portugal in order to comply the objectives of the Water Framework Directive. In the past, we were faced with two types of substantial problems. First, the inland water bodies, I mean rivers and creeks. And the second large problem was the quality of our coastal waters. Most of our population and the economic activities, including tourism, are based in our coastal area, and this impacts our coastal waters. Fortunately, Portugal made continued efforts in order to overcome those difficulties. Today, we are the country with Europe that has the largest number of blue flags per square meter of beach. This means significant work made in the background in the treatment of sewage in urban and industrial areas. And we have a couple of projects which were recognized at the international level. The River Ave in the north of Portugal is a flagship river, I would say. Those that knew what was the status a couple of decades ago is fully aware of the huge progress made. And there are other examples, the River Trancão in the south and the very same Tagus River, which was the focus of an integrated project that resulted in a review of the permit granting process for the wastewater treatment plants located in the river basin of the Tagus River. After these introductory remarks, I would like to focus on an underlying issue, which is the availability of funds for the planned programs, both at the national and the regional levels. Portugal has come a long way. It has been successful in its endeavors. However, we need to acknowledge that the structural community funds played a very important role. Portugal, at the end of the current programming period, will be able to reach a rate of 90% of its sewage treated. And this was made possible within the scope of our policy instrument called Think 2020. All the relevant stakeholders, local authorities, central authorities, businesses, and municipalities have been playing their part, have been addressing the challenges raised by the programs. So I would say that we have been made an efficient use of the financial resources made available for investment purpose. And we were lucky enough, well, maybe it's not about luck, it's rather about having a very skilled technical community in the scope of water resources. Fortunately, we have a wealth of expertise at the university level, at the business level, at the utilities level, at the polytechnics level. And these skills and expertise are key for achieving these positive outcomes. The Environmental Fund of the Ministry of Environment made available substantial funds for actions towards our rivers, and these funds provide a further boost to the implementation of targeted actions across our river basins. Having said that, Portugal is still faced with a few challenges, and these challenges should influence the setting up of priorities for the next programming period. In our region, in Alto Minho, in the north of Portugal, we have signs that show that we will face severe problems related with climate changes. There are signs now of pockets in our region that show some constraints or decrease in water resources availability. So down the road, we should focus on the impact and fallout of the climate change in our water resources. Another topic which is partially related with the latter, but to a certain extent is neglected, is the emerging pollutants. We know that in the future, emerging pollutants will have a significant impact. The river flows are decreasing, and emerging pollutants resulting from our lifestyles, and take into account that we have aging population taking increasingly more medicines that are then disposed of in those rivers, and take into account that our wastewater treatment plants were not designed to treat those types of pollutants, in spite of being effective to treat the pollutants of the past. Having said all this, these emerging pollutants may be a risk factor for the fauna and flora, so we must change some of our past paradigms. So we must invest in increasing our technical capability to do research on emerging pollutants so that we can anticipate these challenges, which are not limited to Portugal, but we need to be at the forefront of the research activities. A third challenge is related with monitoring and information. In order to take timely and informed decision makers require good and reliable information. The national and regional authorities in Portugal have been making efforts in order to make available real-time information and reliable information. But we need to do more. There's room for improvement. So investments should be made in order to obtain reliable information in terms of quantity and quality of our water resources, including rivers and groundwaters. So I think that we should also invest in this area. In other words, we should make available more funds to engage institutional actors, universities, polytechnic institutes, so that they can all work together in order to generate reliable and timely information. And finally, a very topic which is very dear to me. I'm based in the north of Portugal, in the northwest of Portugal. And on this matter, I'm very much concerned with international rivers. In the north, we have two large international rivers, and many of the problems that we have to tackle require a good coordinated approach by Portugal and Spain. Some of these international rivers are governed by the Iberian Agreement on Water Basins, But the issues of a more operational nature, the issues related with our sources of water in the region should be addressed within the scope of a more close dialogue, and instead of having only a macro view on these topics, maybe we should have a more local based approach. We cannot neglect any actions that we can do in order to improve this common management. For example, we can implement joint projects engaging the regional institutions both from Portugal and Spain, including public institutions and private institutions. We all know that quality is only possible when all the relevant stakeholders play their part. So I'm sure that you agree with me that networking is key. It's useless to make huge investments on one side of the border if that global coordination is missing. The river basin management requires an integrated approach, requires the engagement of all the stakeholders, private businesses, namely the heavy pollutants, municipalities associations, local powers, local governments, central government, NGOs, and the citizens themselves, so that in a coordinated manner we can indeed achieve our goal, which is to have a high quality water resources network underpinning the future development models. Portugal has these days a more skilled and qualified agriculture. Portugal is also very much based on tourism, so the management of water resources is key for the future of our country. I do believe that the community funds that will be made available in the next programming period will breathe new life into some of these projects. Water efficiency, both in urban areas and in terms of industrial use and agriculture use, will also be a priority for the following years. So once the problems are identified, I'm sure that the actors at the regional and the national level will be able to set up a matrix to allocate the available resources in line with the key priorities. This is what we are counting on, and we will always be ready to provide our input. And then, of course, we'll try to make a good use of these resources so that Portugal can continue on this successful path. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you very much for your remarks. I would like also to take this opportunity to thank all the speakers for being very straightforward in their presentations, and now we have some time for a discussion on water quality, water management, community funds, and operational programs. So now I would like to invite the speakers and participants to ask their questions or make their comments. You can use the chat feature of the platform or raise your hand if you want to ask a question. But while you think about your questions, based on what we've heard and based upon the topic at stake, I think that I would like to address a couple of questions. First, the issue of governance as something critical for the future. Governance was discussed at different levels, from the international scale to the local scale. But I think that we are more concerned here with the governance of the structural funds and how these funds will be used and how to establish a link between the national plan and the regional and local plans. So, what is your opinion regarding the governance of the financing system for investments to improve water quality? And I would like to dovetail this with another topic which was discussed during the presentations: a next generation of investments. There are new challenges that will require new types of investments, or at least at a different scale. For instance, various speakers talked about urban settlements with a low density population. Some of you talked about the investments needed in view of the climate changes or the use of the ICT tools. So it seems that a new type of investment will be required. So could you please comment on this? On one hand, which type of governance is required for the new programming period to make the national, regional, and local plans consistent? In Portugal, we have a thematic operational program at the national level, and then we have also regional operational programs. So the first question is about the governance. The second is your opinion on the new types of investments that will be required and will be the priorities for the next programming period. Well, this is a wide question. It's food for thought, but maybe we can focus now on the operational programs. And I would like to ask the speakers to take the floor and try to answer these questions or provide their input on these two clusters of questions which I've raised.
Não havendo, isto é como na escola.
This is like in school. If there are no volunteers, I will invite you to take the floor.
Sr. Engenheiro,
Mr. Carlos Martins, since you were the last speaker, now you will be the first one. So let me accept your challenge and thank you for this opportunity. And I will try to share with you my 5 cents with a very straightforward reflection. So, regarding these new types of funding and how they are different from the past and who can be the beneficiaries, I believe they will not be very different because there's a certain stabilization. They may fulfill different goals from the ones they have fulfilled in the past. So I would say there are 4 types of beneficiaries, and they have addressed some of the challenges that have been listed. I would first mention the polytechnic universities or knowledge centers, and I must say I have high expectations because I believe they can be relevant actors in what concerns emerging pollutants. This is still a very specialized field and it's not mastered by all those who work in this field, and it's not really a priority for municipalities and experts. And I believe that universities and polytechnic institutions have the necessary resources to deal with this. But I believe that the type of projects and the type of beneficiaries and the governance of these funds should not mean that universities should not perform research targeting action, i.e., this funding should be given so that universities can lead projects, but in partnership with the recipients of this research. Otherwise, there's the risk of promoting research projects that end up at the back of the oven, and notwithstanding their value, they are not applied on a day-to-day basis and in a proactive manner. So I am putting them on as having a first role, but they should target their research towards action. Thus, the funding rules can be more enhanced than they were in the past. I was also doing research in the past, and now polytechnic institutions are more pragmatic. But we should highlight this. Now, regarding water sector companies, where we have many municipalities and other companies such as Águas do Norte and many others in the North region, I believe they are also recipients and beneficiaries of these funds. But they should be used in a careful way. I have to confess that sometimes I have difficulties in seeing significant amounts of these funds being given to new technologies because there's a new fad. Where, for example, a registration system may cost millions and it is delivered as an output by a company, and then there's no one with the expertise to check the quality of the work given. and to be used on a day-to-day basis. And sometimes there's no money to continue updating the registry, and it will just become IT garbage that will not be used. And only big money was spent. So the beneficiaries should be the companies, the municipalities that are responsible for basic sanitation, water supply, but behind we should have criteria that ensure organizational mechanisms at the internal level that will make possible its use on a day-to-day basis. Then another beneficiary are the municipalities. And in this case, I'm not so much thinking about the infrastructures to deal with pollutants and to make sure that we supply quality water, but rather to enable the use of our water resources by people. There's nothing better than to have people using the rivers because they monitor the quality. Because if you bathe in a creek, you will realize if it's not a good quality. So this idea to have people using our rivers, this is an important factor. So I would talk about municipal projects to conduct a requalification of these rivers, these water masses, so that the populations will use them. So it's within the scope of urban requalification, and namely in the case of urban rivers, urban creeks, because the populations can do the oversight between inverted commas, and people can take ownership of this asset. Finally, long gone are the days where businesses that were pollutants to develop their own treatment plants and others to do the pre-treatment and to be connected with the municipal systems. This, in the old days, was relevant, but since then, we believe that the administrations, by licensing new industries, would safeguard this architecture and also these principles. What we see in the territory, namely in the region, makes me less optimistic. So I believe that the administration should be better equipped with knowledge of what exists in the territory, but also enabling companies to do some upgrades regarding their water status. And this could be an important contribution. So in a nutshell, the beneficiaries are the centers of knowledge, universities, polytechnics, and technological centers, targeting what is very practical, the water and sanitation companies targeting new technologies, but ensuring that they have the necessary backup structures and that these new technologies will be used so as to maximize the efficiency of the investment, and municipalities within the scope of developing urban projects, but taking advantage of the requalification of water bodies and companies with a better industrial registration, and also with the rehabilitation or upgrading of treatment units, because many of these companies have already developed these premises within the scope of a different legislative framework, and we know that the licensing is so bureaucratic that they end up not meeting the desirable standards. And this is my contribution. Thank you.
To formulate some questions, to ask some questions, and basing my question on the words of Engenheiro Carlos Martins, I would like to, and profiting from the presence of a university here, the University Technological of Kaunas, I would like to ask to Jolanta what is the role that she foresees for the university in terms of the next programming period in what concerns the quality and the management of the water. So we would like to hear from Lithuania about the role of the universities and the research and development concerning this issue. I don't know if Jolanta is still here.
Yes, I can hear you. Do you hear me?
Yes, very well.
You hear. Okay. Thank you very much for your question. Yes, indeed, I think that all stakeholders and such stakeholders as universities or research institutions, they have a huge importance in developing or in improving the policy instruments, because first of all that researchers, they contribute with their activities, with their research activities, and contribute to the tasks for national or regional authorities. And I can give just an example from Lithuania. As I said, I have mentioned before that, for example, some substances of very high concern, such as phthalates, for example, they are still very important pollutant in our wastewaters and surface waters. I know that in some countries already phthalates are disappearing, or maybe they are not so actual because other countries, they change their technological processes. Maybe they have substituted phthalates, substances of very high concern, with some other substances. But still we have from consumers, from the goods, and from the processes this is. And what, how we did and how we cooperate or had a cooperation with our national authority to make a research work and to understand where and how can be distributed the phthalates and how they can appear in the surface water, from which industries, from which companies, what are the technological solutions to treat these substances in the wastewater when we have those substances either in industrial companies' wastewater or municipal wastewater. So I think it's research institutions. They are one of the important stakeholders in country, and in cooperation with the national authority, they can find some solutions. And yesterday, our colleagues from Klaipėda University, they also showed and demonstrated their previous projects implemented concerning pharmaceuticals, and implemented the activated carbon technologies in the wastewater treatment plant, municipal wastewater treatment plant, or by developing the ponds for surface water treatment. So I think that everywhere researchers should contribute and should cooperate, and of course national authorities should organize these stakeholder groups. And as far as I remember from our previous talks, we have mentioned that not only authorities and researchers, but also stakeholders should be involved, the local communities or representatives of local communities and citizens, because they are main users of water resources. We are public society as well. We represent in some cases we are the same as others, and I would say that this partnership and cooperation between the different actors and stakeholders are very important, and of course research institutions, and they have to cooperate and try to prepare the programs and measures and try to help national authorities in achieving the good status of and quality of water resources, and mention the surface waters, groundwaters, or other resources. So that would be a very short comment from me.
Thank you very much. I would like to. We still don't have any other questions, so I will go ahead. And we also have in this panel two regional authorities. I would like to ask you the same question. How do you see this evolution in what concerns the governance of the structural funds and these networks in what concerns the management and the quality of the water? And I would like to start by asking this to the county of Östergötland, to Sofia Bastviken, please.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
As I told you before, we are not in charge, or we're not handling or administrative for these regional operational programs, but we have these other policy instruments. But what you asked was about this governance. So I don't really know about the governance of the structural funds. I'm not really into those. But what I can say is that mostly these are like showing the direction of what we should target on, and it's the same for us. We have all this program of measures that's really good to show the direction and show where we should act or have action, and where we should start projects. But what I also pointed out is this. I think it's coming to be more and more. It has to be more and more local and a different scale. As far as we are trying to implement these actions plans, we cannot stay on a national level or a regional level. We have to come down to this very, very local level. So we are actually having a lot of work governing these actions on we call it the super local level, when we have this more like consulting activities. Yeah, that's a short answer.
Thank you very much. Now I'll go to Liliana Souza representing the Junta de Castelo Leão concerning this issue. Do you have something to add?
Ora, bom dia novamente. Conseguem ouvir?
I hope you can hear me. Yes, we can hear you loud and clear. Just like Sofia, I am here today presenting the board of Castilla and Leon, and I'm not the best person to reply on behalf of the board regarding the challenges or the opportunities for improvement of the governance of structural funds. However, what I can share with you as a representative of AMRD is that we hope that this event and events like this one, and the sharing of experiences and good practices among partners, may influence the political instrument, namely the Castilla-Leon OP, targeting the priorities as far as action is concerned. So AMRD is working closely with the managing authority of this OP. And we are also defining the guidelines for the action plan at the regional level. And we hope this will help us to better use the funds and enhance the territorial intervention. Dovetailing with today's presentations, we do know there's a concern in reaching out smaller populational groups, given that we have a reality of a scattered population, and we believe this will continue to be a priority regarding investments. And I don't have much more to add. I am sure that if the board of Castilla-Leon was present, they could give you a better informed answer. Thank you so much. I would also like to invite our colleagues from Greece, because I believe they are representing the managing authority of the region of Attica. And in their presentation, they also mentioned the issues of improving governance, increasing feasibility, efficiency, and efficacy as priorities for the coming programming period. But apparently, they are no longer with us. And since participants have not asked questions, I can say, I believe, on behalf of Sim Alto Minho, I would like to thank you all for your presence. I would also like to thank you for your presentations from my viewpoint. They were very interesting. This was a great way to start my day. So I would like to thank you and wish you all a great day. And please stay safe, because we're all facing a difficult period. And I wish you all the success for this project, Big Data for Rivers. Thank you so much. I also wish everybody a great day. So let me thank Paulo Queiroz. It was an excellent chair of this debate period. I would also like to thank all our speakers, namely to Jolanta Dvarioni from the Kaunas University. I would like to thank Spiliotis Angelos from the Managing Authority of the region of Attica, and also the representative of the Board of Castilla and Leon, to Carlos Martins from Waters of Alto Minho, and also to Sofia and Sara from the County Board of Östergötland. I would also like to thank all the participants who attended this session. And again, let me say that we will continue tomorrow with the third knowledge transfer seminar regarding conclusions, lessons learned, and good practices already identified throughout the project activities. So see you all tomorrow. Thank you so much. Have a nice day.